We are now approaching Kalkara Creek, better known as the English Creek. During the time of the Knights, this was the location in which the English galley ships would berth, while French merchant ships would berth in the French Creek. It still retains aspects of an attractive fishing village, and many of the island's traditional boats are repaired here. One of the major landmarks in this creek is the building with the columns on your left. An Italian knight, Fra Vici, built a villa here, which in time became known as Villa Vici. It was Lord Nelson himself who suggested that this location would make a very suitable hospital for the British Navy, and eventually, in 1832, it became Vici Hospital. During World War I, some 50,000 injured soldiers were treated at this hospital. You can still see a lift by the shoreline which transported the injured from the coastline to the hospital. Due to its long history offering hospital services to the region, Malta was referred to as the nurse of the Mediterranean. It functioned as a hospital until 1970. Today it is a centre specialising in the conservation and restoration of tapestries, paintings, books and statues. At sea level you will notice a number of bollards. There is an interesting story behind these. If you look carefully you will realise that they are in fact iron cannons. When the British ruled over our islands, they found a large number of them, some dating back to the Great Siege in 1565. Having no further use for them, and fearing that the locals would use them against their troops, they were taken down to our harbours, sunk into rock, and used as bollards to tie their ships. There are at least 350 of such bollards surrounding our harbours. Situated just over the ridge out of sight is Fort St Elmo. Here one finds a rare 100-ton cannon built by the British in the 19th century. It is said to be the largest cannon in the world. It was capable of firing a 1-ton shell a distance of 5 kilometers and piercing 65 centimeters of wrought iron armor. A reenactment is held regularly with volunteers dressed in Victorian military uniforms. Again beyond the ridge are the famous Mediterranean film studios, which offer some impressive facilities for the film industry, and which include some of the world's largest water tanks used in sea battles, etc. The local film industry is developing nicely. Films such as Gladiator, Troy, The Count of Monte Cristo, Cutthroat Island, and many others were filmed in this area, plus a number of TV commercials, documentaries, and music videos. We are now approaching Vanilla Creek. Fort Ricasoli commands a strategic position at the entrance of the Grand Harbour. The ridge has been effectively used by the Turks against St Elmo during the Great Siege, and to prevent a repetition of this ever happening again, this fort was built in 1670. It was erected to the designs of the engineer Valperga and at the expense of Giovanni Ricasoli, an Italian knight. In 1810, Lucien Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother, was captured by 2 British frigates, one on his way to the United States. He was brought to Malta and imprisoned in this fort. From this point, one can clearly appreciate the fortifications defending the entrance to the Grand Harbour, with Fort Ricasoli on one side and Fort St Elmo on the other. And shortly on our right is a small fort known as Fort St Elmo. This fort was originally erected by the Knights of St John and later enlarged by the British. A chapel once stood in the fort which was dedicated to Our Lady. It was common practice for sailors to recite the prayer Hail Mary when either entering or leaving the harbour. In Maltese, the first words of this prayer are Slem Alik Maria. The word Slem means peace. It is commonly held that this is how the town of Sliema got its name. Malta recently removed its entry border controls for all people arriving from other Schengen member states, in line with the Schengen Agreement. As from December 2007, its sea borders were opened, while after March 2008, the same applied to Malta's air borders. The earliest records regarding Manoel Island just ahead of us date back to 1466 and state that it was leased to a Catalan nobleman living in Malta. The Order of St John acquired the land in 1643 in order to build a Lazzaretto or quarantine hospital. We will soon be able to see the ruins of this hospital. Fort Manoel was commissioned by Grand Master Manoel de Vilhena, a Portuguese knight. This small island acquired strategic importance with the building of Valletta, and the knights appealed to the French king to send them a good military engineer. In January 1715, René Jacob de Teniers and his assistant Charles François de Mondion arrived in Malta with a presentation letter, which introduced Mondion as having been apprenticed under the guidance of Marshal de Vauban, famous for designing fortifications. By 1726, the date carried on the inscription over the main gate. The fort was almost complete. Built in the shape of a star, it is regarded as an important example of military architecture of the time. By 1732, the ditch had been completely excavated. Most of its bastions are carved out of solid rock, and beyond the gate is the main piazza with the surrounding barracks. Leading up to the beautiful Baroque gateway are some very low steps designed for the knights with their cumbersome suits of armour. These can also be found in our capital city, Valletta. The British used the fort throughout the 19th century and the early 20th century. During World War II, Fort Manoel received some direct hits that caused some very serious damage. The chapel was also badly damaged. These events ushered in a long period of abandonment and neglect, which accelerated the cycle of decay. Today, an extensive restoration project is underway, and the architectural elements should be fully restored. see the ruins of Lazzaretto Hospital on our right-hand side. Due to the great fear of disease, the Knights built a hospital here, and for centuries the authorities enforced strict quarantine rules to all incoming visitors. Breaking them was punishable by hard labor, and sometimes even by death. The 23-meter wreck of a 1915 X-Mitre lies on the seabed close to the old hospital. Originally built for the Gallipoli campaign, the Royal Navy developed the X-Mitre as a means of transportation for troops and equipment. In April 1942, it was torpedoed, and the resulting gaping hole can still be seen today. Divers are able to swim through it and see the engine and bridge. Surrounding the wreck, divers can see hospital beds, wheelchairs, and other objects. This makes it an interesting dive site, although visibility is not too good. It is worth noting that a number of distinguished visitors were obliged to spend time at this hospital before they were permitted to stay on the island. The Scottish novelist Sir Walter Scott stayed here. During his second visit to Malta in 1811, the English poet Lord Byron carved his name among the graffiti on one of the terraces of the hospital. Benjamin Disraeli, who eventually became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, also spent time here. It was he who described Valletta as a city built by gentlemen for gentlemen. By the town of Tashbish on our right. The name is derived from the Arabic word shabik, which means fishing nets. According to records, fishermen used to stretch their nets along these shores, leaving them to dry, and this is most probably how this town got its name. The black yacht coming up is the Black Pearl that once belonged to the famous actor Errol Flynn. It also featured in the film Popeye, starring Robin Williams. Today it is a restaurant. On our right we can once again see Tashbish. This is one of Malta's prime sites for real estate. There are some impressive buildings of Victorian architecture. Many embassies, including the British and the Australian High Commission, are located in this area. Blocks of luxurious flats are also being built along this shoreline. Straight ahead of us is another town called Msida, coming from the word Masida, which means fishing village. The University of Malta is situated in this town. Yachting facilities in the area provide water, electricity, weather forecasts, ship-to-shore radio, etc. The parish church just ahead of us was built in the 19th century and is dedicated to St. Joseph. In this town, one will also find one of Malta's cave chapels. You will notice how, due to urbanization, Tashbish, Msida, and the next town of Pieta are right next to each other, and the boundaries are not very clear. Along this coast is also one of the departure points linking Malta with the sister island of Gozo. You will also be able to see the depot of the Malta patrol boats which berth at Hay Wharf. These are run by the Armed Forces of Malta. Besides other duties, they must ensure that no foreign fishing vessel enters Maltese territorial waters without the necessary permission. Once again on our right is the fortified town of Floriana. Just outside our capital Valletta, Pietro Paolo Floriani was the military architect who designed this line of fortifications, and the area was referred to as Floriana. In time, permission was granted by Grandmaster Vilena for the establishment of Suborgo Vilena, but the area was still referred to as Floriana. We're now cruising by a dry ditch which runs from Marsamxett Harbour to the Grand Harbour. It is almost 1,000 metres long, 20 metres wide, and 80 metres deep. If you have already visited Valletta, you may have noticed this while standing on the bridge just before City Gate. The ditch was dug by slaves, and the stone was used in the building of the city. It was supposed to have been dug deeper and be flooded with seawater to further protect the city during times of siege, and also to form a convenient passageway between this harbour and the Grand Harbour during times of peace. However, the plans were never finalised. As outlined in architect Laparelli's initial plans of the city, the streets are built on a grid system, which allow cool breezes to enter and flow through the city during the stifling summer months. Systems were in place from the start to handle garbage disposals and drainage. The ancient Roman architect Vittoriosa is famous for asserting in his book De Architectura that a structure must exhibit the three qualities of firmitas, utilitas, and velustas. That is, it must be durable, useful, and beautiful. Three adjectives which certainly describe these fortifications. Over the centuries, the harbour area witnessed the building of great works of fortifications, designed by engineers from most of the major military powers of the time: Spanish, Italian, French, and British. The result of this is one of the finest collections of military architecture in the world. Sharing Valletta's skyline is the dome of the Carmelite Church and the steeple of St Paul's Anglican Cathedral, which was built at the request of the Dowager Queen Adelaide of England during her stay in Malta between 1838 and 1839. Whichever way you look, the skyline is filled with church steeples and domes. Most Maltese are Catholic, and there are no less than 365 churches, one for each day of the year. Places of worship for other religions are also available on the island.
Take that to record-breaking solo success. That's a man. Now shortly the Lazzaretto soon begins. Join us for Italian Thursday at Seaton. All the night away at Super Bowl. Visit the club and enjoy the charm of the karaoke. Indulge in a tailor-made Italian menu designed for a truly special evening. A night of fun, flavor, and Italian charm. Every Thursday is January at Seaton with Italian tunes and dances. It's an evening to remember. Arrivederci.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to approach to end our cruise, so I hope that it was interesting for you. But before we finish the strategy on half a cruise, I'm going to give you some information about Sliema. Sliema is the place from where we start and the place where we are going to finish this half a cruise. Sliema, it means peace, and then we pray to Our Lady with our hands. Sliema, it means peace for you. In Sliema, you can find 20,000 inhabitants at Tunis village. And you can find all pubs and restaurants and hotels, and also you can find the largest shopping complex that we have in our island, that it is in Senglea Square. In Sliema you can find two churches, one of them that is dedicated to Our Lady Stellamaris, the other one that is dedicated to our brothers of the Roman Catholic Church, the Dominicani. So thank you very much for coming, thank you that you're choosing Supreme Cruises. There's some more things that they are grazie and saha. Grazie, it means thank you. Saha, you have two meanings. One of them it means goodbye. The other one wish you full of health for that you are here and even for your families. If you wish to leave a small tip to all the crew members, it will be greatly appreciated. We have a small bowl at the back of the boat. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you that you're choosing Malta. And also Supreme Cruises. Happy holidays, and for the last, grazie and saha from us all. Thank you, everybody.
This is A Easy 100.2.
was back over there and because like I remember once I was doing a daughter in there, so I was just
Yeah, go.
waiting for
Let's do a lot of miles. Let's do
oh,
it.
I'm
This is
yeah.
very easy, 100.2.
And I was like, no, I'm crying. It just really like